Na 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 swole Batman. It's AJ Brown o'clock. 12 by 10, 10 by 12, 14 by 27. I really don't care. Like AJ Brown, I'm willing to pay 2 firsts worth of value to get into him in most formats. You give me Ty Chandler, Gabe, what side do you want?
Oh, easily Batman over here, especially now with his return.
Batman begins, Batman continues,
Returns.
and
Batman
returns. There we go. Let's talk about it.
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me. Hurt my feelings.
Welcome in to the All Gas Trade Show. I'm your guy Ty Declare at Ty Declare 44. I got Gabe at @Gabe_FF on X, and we have a show for you. Yes, week 7. It's Thursday, October 17th as we record, Gabe. The notification just came through. Rashid Shaheed, his season is looking like it's done. I guess not surprising in 2024, but how you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Trying to, keep some players alive over here in fantasy football, the best way that we can. But overall, doing good. Ready to get this show underway.
Seriously, I know. It's been a pretty happening season so far. I felt like I've been going crazy trying to keep up with what the community thinks, what I think, and trying to find the wiggle room in the middle. But that's why we're here. We're here to talk about it, have some fun. So before we get into it, again, DD Fantasy Football, just the best place to be. So you can get in there, ddfantasyfootball.com, patreon.com/allgas, but a little something special. Let's say you're a new customer, you're not really sure. Now's the best time. We got ourselves a little 50% off at sign up. Use code TRADES or code TRADEGOAT to get into the GOAT tier. Get access to everything. Trinity, War, Us, everything. I'll send you an edible arrangement if you get in there. No, I'm not going to do that. But, it's pretty much all access. Head on over to ddfantasyfootball.com/?via=trades to have a direct link. Or head on over to my Twitter, TyDeclare44. You'll see a link right there. Get in the door. You're not going to want to leave. Gabe, again, like why wouldn't you want in to DD Fantasy Football right now? Why?
I mean, honestly, if you're advertising for edible arrangements, I think I'm going to have to go re-sign up too with using my wife's email as well. So come on, man. I'm ready for that edible arrangement over here.
Yeah, I'll come over. I'll clean your house. We'll fluff the pillows. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But seriously, everything's happening over in the Discord. We got the instant injury show with Jeff. Got pole position with me. You got Cody's deep waiver wire shows. You got all Trinity content, Manic and Chill. Just things popping off all the time in there. Literally the best place to be. Underdog as well. Use code ALLGAS. Get up to 1,000 at sign up with the bonus match. Get your bonus pick. Play Underdog. It's fun. You know what else is fun, Gabe? Getting AJ Brown. That's pretty fun. I've been trying to do this all week, really trying to get back into my AJ Browns. You know how many AJ Browns I have, so I only had to really go to a couple leagues to try. I got a "Are you drunk?" response to one of my trade offers. So AJ Brown feels pretty damn unattainable right now, and for good reason. I know we've talked about AJ Brown in a couple leagues, me trying to get him off you previously. And what did I say? But I need 2 firsts. I need 2 firsts to get something done. And Big Diaz got it done.
He did, man. I'm telling you right now, AJ Brown, after the week he's had, or the last week that he had, he's starting to push back to where he was, right? I know he kind of dipped a little bit, and now he's shot straight back up.
Yeah, he was out of sight, out of mind for a hot minute. That minute is no longer here. He's here. Ty Chandler, Aaron Jones is out probably this week. I don't think he's practiced yet. So, Ty Chandler could be in line for a start. It's nice to have a little plus on that side too, but I think I would just do this for AJ Brown alone in the right circumstance. You're sending away your first. You say you're contending top 3 teams. I'm going to believe that. MN Digger's pick, I have no idea where that's going to be, but a random first and a late first, just give me AJB.
Yeah, start 10. Again, maybe we had a little bit of a different context as far as deeper of rosters, but start 10, you want hammers, and AJ Brown is that guy, and that's the side that I want. To your point, right now, you get a spot start with Ty Chandler. If Aaron Jones is going to miss this week, it's pretty easy. AJ Brown in this deal, and you not only that, but you also get bonuses for first down, which 40-yard bonuses, all of that. AJ Brown, that's where he's hitting.
All he does is catch 40-yard bombs down the sideline. So, and Gabe, watch this. We're going to fly to the other side of the screen. Bang. Look at this. Look at all this space. We'll
like
assess
that.
this out for a little bit. We'll see what that feels like. Diaz, what's with this pending stuff though? Come on, trade should go right through. Gabe, we have a lot to get to, but I figured let's just get this one out of the way. The people are gonna hate it. That people are just gonna hate it. This is a 12-team start 10 lineup league. I traded away, and you know that I have that AJ Brown. You also know how much I have of Hurts. I traded away one of those Jalen Hurts, a Josh Jacobs, and a Stephon Diggs for Sam Darnold, Drake London, and a 2025 first, which, again, if you're sending those pieces away, you got to assume it's late. Yeah. Gabe, tell me, you can tell me I'm crazy. You're not the only one. Because, I mean,
Man.
Ty, what are you doing? What's happening?
I mean, you kind of already heard me discuss this with you a little bit, right? I think you're the one that needs to do a lot of the explaining here on this trade, right? But I think, automatically just the lens of the way that I see this trade, I want the Jalen Hurts, Stephon Diggs, Josh Jacobs side, right? And again, I know that I've already kind of talked to you briefly about that, but, giving up an elite asset like Jalen Hurts, ADV-wise, right? Again, ADV-wise, it's tough, man, to go from the cream of the crop to Sam Darnold. And I know the production might be relatively close, but the ADV is not there right now for Sam Darnold. So I think you assume a really big risk here. I understand why you would make a deal like this. Again, from a production standpoint, you don't really lose too much production, and you get a liquid first, to be able to kind of make some moves. But man, I think I want to hear your thoughts on this and why you made this deal first off, but just in a vacuum, me looking at this, I want Jalen Hurts, Stephon Diggs, and Josh Jacobs.
If someone sent me this deal in Discord and said, what should I do? I'd be like, yeah, you should probably just take the Hurts side and then just be happy that you're getting all this producing players and Hurts. Like I'd roll with it.
Yeah.
But we don't always play in vacuums. And for me, this has been a league where I've been trying to slim down and gain as many 25 first really as I can. I want to find a way to come in 5th or 6th, just enter into the playoffs, get through there, but come into next season with a lot of liquidity. So what I do is I acquire my 4th first, my 4th 25 first, and this is my whole team. Yep. So I have Jaden Daniels, now I have Sam Darnold. I had that Fields. We can talk about Fields now too. Sounds like he's not going to be the starter. So hope you moved him or hope his opportunity comes again, right? Got a whole bunch of backups on this team too. Got James Conner, Devin Singletary, Jaleel. So I got bodies. We got London. Now I got London. I had Puka Nacua. Haven't really been able to use him much this year. Been trying to this trade also is about 2.5 weeks worth of conversation back and forth trying to find something that works. So, it's one of those deals. And a lot of it was discussing trying to move Puka to try to use that value, but I can't get anything in this league. So I guess I'm holding. Got JMO, I have Deontay, I have Jalen Polk, Sutton, Hollywood Brown, and Javon Baker. So I'm bang for my buck wide receiver, and I have Pitts and Fant. Okay, so if I'm looking at this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the way that I kind of approached it was, again, from a production standpoint, Sam Darnold and Hurts. Let me bring over the WAR page here. You can kind of see that. Let me see let's pop over here. Bang. So this is the wins above replacement for this particular league. So you see the 3-year average, right? Quarterback, if you're a top 4 quarterback, top 5 quarterback, the steepness of this line tells me that that's the positional advantage that's worth going for. And if you're a top 16-ish option, you're going to get by more weeks than not. And so far in 2024, that trend's continuing, right? If you're a top 6 quarterback, you have this escalating up line where you are a true difference maker. And this middle range, it's still good. It's kind of flat. It's maneuverable, but it's still good. You still definitely want that. And guess where old Jalen Hurts is?
I'm going to assume he's probably right either behind or right next to Sam Darnold.
He's QB 11 on the year. Okay, so total, and Sam Darnold's right behind him. And one of the things I brought up on pole position this week is we were looking at ways to kind of move off your Hurts. So I'm on PFF really quick here. Finishes. So, where's here? Jalen Hurts. So Jalen Hurts is finished. QB7, QB2, QB20, QB10, and QB9.
Yep.
When you have drafted and when you've bought in Hurts, Gabe, what are you buying Hurts to be? A top 4 quarterback or a top 12 quarterback?
Top, 3 probably. But yeah, top 4.
All right. And so far, what 2024 has taught me is maybe Hurts is not going to be that high-end top 4 guy this year. Like, at least we're going to have these kind of top 8, top 10, top 12 weeks mixed in. And if that's the case, then, I mean, we're also in a dynasty market where it's hard to get 2, let alone 3 liquid first for any asset in dynasty. And the value of a single first, I feel like that is growing at the same time. So we're in this weird kind of middle flux range.
Yeah.
And if Jalen Hurts is only a top 10 quarterback, what is that actually worth aside from ADV?
The thing is, I'm going to push back a little bit on this,
Please
right?
do.
We kind of
Please
talked
do.
about it. We talked about it a little bit last week, with specifically with the Stebo trade, right? For Jalen Hurts for Jaden Daniels. The thing is that we're kind of viewing this right now as Jalen Hurts being QB 11 on the season when he hasn't had AJ Brown, Smitty, like he hasn't had a full healthy team around him, for a couple weeks now. Right now, I get, AJ Brown just came back, and so he was QB 9 last week, which is very good. To your point, it's not ideally what you want out of your Jalen Hurts, but some of these things take a little bit of time to kind of get going, right? And so, what I would say is, I think you want Jalen Hurts to be that QB 3 and up, right? As far as what you're buying him for, but the reality is that he hasn't had his producers yet. So I do think that selling now might be a little bit of a earlier sell. I think had you probably held on a week or two, let him get the production that you are accustomed to seeing, you probably could have gotten a little bit more out of this trade. That's kind of where I see Jalen Hurts right now specifically.
Yeah, and if you told me is now the best time to try and sell Hurts, I'd tell you no, probably not. Yeah. Right? But I mean, you know me as well. I have a lot of exposure to Hurts in Dynasty, right? So
that is true.
Getting off of some makes some sense. And it just in my head, right? And I agree with you. It's probably just time and maybe Sirianni goes, who knows, right? But there's a change should come and it should positively impact Hurts. But what if it doesn't for 2024? Right? And what if I keep jamming into my lineup and I'm only getting 15, 16 points, right? When I need that 20 plus. So it's just one of the ways I was looking at that. And so really, let me ask from a different angle now. So the Steph Diggs, the Josh Jacobs, and the Drake London. Let me just pull over this whole Trinity score here, Gabe. Yeah. So this is last week here. Drake London, 904, very elite. Let's see the last weeks 4 through 6. London, 851. Okay, in this whole season so far.
He started off a little slow.
Yeah. A little slow, right? 751. Yeah, what was his first 2 weeks there?
Yeah, I think his first 2 weeks were.
Yeah, Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney, Drake London 536, right? So he's really turned it on late, and really the whole offense has, right? Like the whole Atlanta offense has turned it on. They look better. Kirk Cousins is throwing, moving. It's good. Unless you're a true contender, one, like, what do you think you can do more with Diggs or Jacobs or London? And like, would you just thinking about? I'm trying. Again, we're living in this very weird "what have you done for me now" time. But I'm also trying to put a dynasty lens on. Drake London has insulated value. Diggs and Jacobs are produced now veterans.
Correct.
Could you get Drake London if I sent Diggs and Jacobs? I bet that gets declined more often than not if I'm trying to get Drake London.
Yeah, I think it would get declined. You know what I mean? Again, I think it would get declined. However, you do have a surplus of picks in this league, right? And so could you have gone now Stephon Diggs, Jacobs in a second for London? That probably could have gotten it done, right? Or probably could have gotten pretty close. You kept your Jalen Hurts. Again, I think you just take on a lot of risk, man, being a rebuilding team. Like, what you don't want to happen, it at least from what I can see, is Sam Darnold go out there, knock on wood, right? Because I never want an injury to happen. But let's say he gets injured. What are you going to get for Sam Darnold? I mean, quite literally, probably nothing, right? And so now, instead of having the flexibility that you had previously of like going into the draft, you didn't have to take a quarterback at all. You had Jaden Daniels and Jalen Hurts, right? So you're pretty much set at the quarterback position, relative to ADV, right? You're pretty much set at the quarterback position. So then you basically had some flexibility with your first where, hey, I don't need to take a quarterback. One of you guys wants to jump up here and take these quarterbacks, by all means, come on. But now you kind of pigeonhole yourself a little bit more, at least from what I can see, if there is anything that happens to Sam Darnold, because he's not guaranteed to get a start next year. Again, I think we're trending in that direction. Absolutely. You know what I mean? He's played very well. So absolutely, it looks like he's trending in that direction. But I think right now, there's just a lot of risk that you kind of assume as a rebuilder. And I feel like it kind of pigeonholes you a little bit more towards where if there's something that does happen to Sam Darnold, you're going to have to use one of those picks for a quarterback, unfortunately. Do you want to do that? I mean, again, we're obviously a long time away from the rookie draft, but it's just kind of things to think about, right, as you're kind of rebuilding where, you kind of do, I feel like, pigeonhole yourself a little bit more should anything happen. Like you want Jaden Daniels, but you also kind of want that Jalen Hurts as a little bit of, flexibility.
Yeah, I agree. Am I creating a problem by trying to fill another one, right? Like, yeah, I hear you there, and I don't really disagree with you. And again, punches in a trade calculator, ask me in a vacuum. I'm taking the Hurts side pretty firmly. But you mentioned there, you had 4 firsts, right? Not that. Listen, you have 4 firsts, so you could have spent one. And I agree, like that. There is that mindset there where I have a surplus. Let me spend it. But something that I find that I'm doing right now in Dynasty is, one, unless it's very, very clear, like a rebuilding team that has no chance or a competing team that's smashing, I will just take as many firsts as I can because I just want equity going into this draft class. I want to be ahead of the curve. I want to have as many shots at the barrel as I can to be able to maneuver in the offseason. And if I have a team that I feel can win week over week while slimming down and gaining insurance through picks, I'm okay playing quarterback a little bit riskier because we've seen Derek Carr have weeks. We've seen Baker Mayfield be the #1 WAR quarterback in Dynasty so far this year, right? So it's risky, absolutely, but sometimes you got to take risks. So I think I lost the trade, but I see why I did it.
No, I mean, and again, I don't want to make it seem like I don't, right? Like I understand why you did it. I just feel like, again, to the point earlier, it's like, is it the best timing? Who knows, right? Jalen Hurts could go out there and stink it up this week. You never know, right? These things change week over week. I think just in a vacuum, like we had talked about, hearing a little bit more about the context of the league, I feel like I would want the Jalen Hurts side just because it allows me a little bit more flexibility, especially in the rookie draft. I don't think you're going to hold on to those picks. I know you very well. You're probably not going to hold on to those picks. But Dynasty Daddy right there says you're a frisky team, and I think this was definitely a very frisky trade. And we never know how these things work out for us until later on, so we'll see.
Exactly. So let me know in the comments. Let me know how much you hate it. But no, legitimately, what are you doing with firsts? Are you holding them? Are you spending them? Are you playing it by ear? Like, do you have a general vibe of what you're doing with first? Let us know in the comments. And yeah, just again, let us know. If you're like JB, you hate it for both sides. No. Well, hey, Gabe, you got one done too this week. So.
Oh, I did, yeah.
Why don't you walk us through this one? Give us context and how you got here.
Yeah, so this is actually a really small deal relative to some of the deals that we are accustomed to making, right? But this one was with Big T. He's one of the Heisman tier members over there. And so this is specifically an HVB. It's a 36-team, start 13, I believe, best ball league. And so it's a 3-copy. And I think we've kind of mentioned it before, but, my team is a heavy contender right now. I think I'm like 4th place right now with victory points, which is kind of how we grade because it's an all play. You play every 35 teams, and then it gives you a record at the end of the week. And so I was able to make a move prior to this that gave me a second for kind of a little bit of liquidity. And so what I wanted to do was just turn around and buy myself a running back. I have Christian McCaffrey on this team, and so I kind of have had a little bit of a hole, if you will, since Christian McCaffrey hasn't played. And so I kind of wanted to fill that with DeAndre Swift, who has been playing incredibly well. And I feel like Burton in a second in, a best ball league, I was perfectly fine with giving up the liquidity and the flexibility to get myself into a DeAndre Swift.
Absolutely. And this deal inspired me to go and try and get some DeAndre Swift myself. So I sent out similar deals across a couple of leagues, a second and a running back or a second and some flavor for Swift and maybe a little something on top. So I have no real issue with it. I know you messaged me about this and I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably the price and it's probably a good price. Like what is Jermaine Burton even in a best ball league right now, Gabe?
He's a 0 on your roster, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not even viable in best ball. Like he doesn't really play right now. So, I mean, yeah. And I think right now, DeAndre Swift is kind of one of those guys where a lot of people have always believed in him. Now, I think the talent that we're seeing right now kind of come through is a couple years too late, or a couple years late, if you will, because we were kind of expecting this right out the gate. But he's definitely a guy that a lot of people I feel like, behind the scenes. And so he's playing incredibly well right now. Chicago really has been playing pretty good as of late. You know what I mean? Caleb Williams seems to be finding his footing a little bit more. And so DeAndre Swift has been a big beneficiary of that, especially at the goal line. He's been getting some touches as well. And so, I just feel like he's one of those guys where pretty soon, I think I saw he was like RB8 on the year so far. I really feel like he could push that top 5 based on how he's playing right now. And at that point, you're not going to be able to get him for a second. It doesn't matter if it's an early second, a late second, it's just not going to happen. And so I felt like making the conviction bet right now early was probably the bet for me. And like I said, right now I'm waiting for Christian McCaffrey to come back specifically in this league. And so who knows, maybe when Christian McCaffrey comes back, we even have more, ammo right in the artillery.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Jermaine Burton's usage. Week 20, he had a little bit. Yeah, he got some snaps, but
20?
Did I say week 20? I said week 2.
Week 2, got it.
Yeah, week 2 he ran 8 routes, but in general he's running, less than 3 routes. Just not really fantasy viable. And in best ball, you have to be really selective with those zeros, right? And the smaller the roster, the less zeros you can really roster. So you got to do that with the plan. I'll take Swift over a second for sure. I think it's what on top of the second can you get for Swift that doesn't make sense for your team. So I like it. Gabe. Good work.
Thank you.
Yeah, Swift with 3 20+ point games in a row. So
and I think in that league specifically, it's like 30 because the bonuses are absolutely insane.
You're absolutely right. Kookski brings us a 14-team Start 11 Superflex PPR 2.0 tight end premium league. The picks involved here are going to be a playoff first and second. So Wake and Baker received Deshaun Watson, a 2025 late first and a 2025 late second. And Kookski got into Sam Darnold. It's a Sam Darnold show. Yeah. And Derrick Henry. I feel like I've talked about Sam Darnold enough this week for myself. Gabe, how do you feel on a playoff first, playoff second, and Deshaun Watson for old Sammy Darnold and Derrick Henry?
Oh my! Give me Sam Darnold and Derrick Henry, man. 14-team league too, so I mean quarterbacks are a little bit more stingy to kind of come around, right? I mean, especially if it's in a super flex league, which it is. So you got 2 automatically starting off 28, so you only have 4 actual starters riding the bench somewhere. And so Deshaun Watson is not one of those quarterbacks that I want to have in a 14-team super flex. No matter, he has to be my 3rd or 4th option. I definitely don't want him to be anywhere near starting in my lineup. And Derrick Henry is very good at football. Scores a lot of touchdowns as well. And so that is definitely the side that I want in this deal.
You said Derrick Henry's good at football? What? Oh my God, no.
Yeah. I mean, come on now.
Just
leading the league, I think, in touchdowns, no big deal.
Yeah, just casually smashing. King's back. Now, Gabe, in a vacuum, are you sending a playoff first straight up for Derrick Henry at this point?
Yes. Yeah, and I could say that going both ways, right? Again, a non-contending team, I think that itself right there is a fine deal. Giving up a 25 first, you can do it both ways. I'm fine with acquiring that Derrick Henry for that price. I'm also good with selling Derrick Henry for that price. I don't really think you could get much more than a first. Even if you're a rebuilding team, I don't think you'd be able to get much more than a first for Derrick Henry.
I'll agree with that, yeah. And I agree it's a good deal going both ways because whoever was holding that Derrick Henry sure as hell didn't think they could get a first at any point, at this point in his career. So you have your chance here, but for a competing roster, who better to get into than the King, right? And then you're basically left Deshaun Watson in a second for Sam Darnold. And if you have a team of Geno Smith and Drake May, I like Sam Darnold there a hell of a lot better than I do Deshaun Watson.
Absolutely. Well, and I don't even know right now, Ty, truth be told, what can you get for Deshaun Watson as far as pick value wise, right? Just to make things simple, right? Just to make things simple. Like, can you get a second for him? Honestly, can you get a second for him?
If one team has a bye week situation and they need to because they can't even put in like a spot start running back or a wide receiver in their super flex spot, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that. I would need a very specific team to even send that at this point, honestly.
Exactly. Think about that. So right now, I think Sam Darnold, the way that he's been playing, he's probably worth about a late first right now. And so if you're telling me that you're hesitant to pay a second for Deshaun Watson, then that's only 2 seconds of value for Sam Darnold. I mean, it's pretty easy. I want Sam Darnold over Deshaun Watson in a second.
I will take all the Sam Darnold love on this show that I can get. I like that for you, Kuski, a lot. Really do. Ty, great name, great alliteration, whatever you want to call
biased.
it. A little what
biased.
Do you mean? What do you mean? Me? Come on. But he brings us a 12-by-9 super flex PPR league. Oh my goodness! In a start 9, give me all the hammers, and you're getting AJ Brown, JT, Jonathan Taylor in a 2025 third. You're sending away Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, the newly build Amari Cooper, and Brian Robinson. A lot of good players in this deal, a lot of points. Yeah. Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, not young. Jonathan Taylor, not healthy. AJ Brown, swole Batman. Brian Robinson, not healthy, but also not shot. So, we'll see how fast he comes back. So, in a 12-by-9 Superflex PPR, Gabe, I'll just tell you this. JT's injured, sure, but he's still the elite outcome running back that I want to take a bet on in an offense like the Indianapolis Colts. Just give me Brown Taylor in a third, but I can understand how the other side got there.
Man, I see it. I think I have a little bit of a harder time trying to understand kind of how the team got there. I get you're getting 3, really good producers, but week over week, I mean, assuming all 3 of these guys are healthy, AJ Brown and Jonathan Taylor are going to outscore the package, right? I mean, and so I think for me, again, I want AJ Brown and Jonathan Taylor very easily, especially in a start 9. I mean, you want just the absolute best of the best because you're not having to start a very deep lineup. And those 2 guys, and they're not older, right? They're a little bit on the younger side. I mean, AJ Brown, I think he's kind of in that middle tier right now as far as age goes, but definitely 2 guys that are very easy to move. I feel like Mike Evans, Cooper, Brian Robinson, you kind of pigeonhole yourself a little bit too with some of the trade partners that you may have. Whereas AJ Brown, Jonathan Taylor, whether you're rebuilding or not, anybody wants those guys. And so, pretty easily give me AJ Brown, Jonathan Taylor, and you're giving me a third on top of it. I'll take it.
Yeah, this is the pigeonhole show, Gabe. And I mean, the way I say it, you can see how they got there. I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm like, hey, if I get Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, who's now going to be Josh Allen's number 1, and Brian Robinson, who is smashing, I'm going to be able to win some weeks. I'm going to get some points. We're going to be rolling. But then you really start to try to do some math on the deal. It's like, can you send Mike Evans and Amari Cooper and even sniff AJ Brown in Dynasty?
No, I don't think you can.
I don't really know if Brian Robinson added in there really changes that equation much.
I mean, I think you could. I think I could see it right where. I mean, in the 3-for-1, yes, okay, that's a different story. But again, to your point, Mike Evans and Cooper in a dynasty league are not getting you AJ Brown. Brian Robinson 1-for-1 is not getting you Jonathan Taylor, and so you're just giving me a third plus some extra value on top. Yeah, I will gladly take it.
Yeah, so it's a sweet deal by Ty here, representing the name well. You'll love to see it.
I was going to say that's exactly what I was going to say, and that's not a little bit biased. He did definitely win that trade.
He did. Speaking of wide receivers on the move, Matty Boy brings us one here as a 12-by-10, 12-team start 10 Superflex PPR and a 2.0 tight end premium. There's no tight ends involved in this deal, Gabe, but there is 2 wide receivers. So one team here is a failed contender, going 1-5, and one of them is Shane. So I'm assuming he's trying to win. So Matty Boy gets into Xavier Worthy, and Shane gets into Devontae Adams. Gabe, New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers. Now Devontae Adams is home. Garrett Wilson, TBD. Mike Williams, they just threw him out by the trash cans. Devontae Adams still pretty good at football. Do you have any expectations for Adams kind of coming into this next week here? And what do you think about this deal?
As far as expectations go, not really. I think this week Garrett Wilson could be a beneficiary of Devontae Adams just initially showing up, because again, I think he's going to draw more coverage, which is going to leave Garrett Wilson a little bit more one-on-one. So I think Garrett Wilson could have a really good week this week while Adams gets kind of adjusted to the offense, because it is different. He hasn't played with Aaron Rodgers in, I believe, almost 4 years now. 4 years. Yeah. And so again, I think the connection is still there, right? They do definitely still have the rapport that they, are probably accustomed to, especially because it seems like they are really good friends and have kept in touch. But I do think it's going to take a little bit of time. Plus Devontae Adams hasn't really played in a couple of weeks because of his hamstring injury. Yeah. Miraculously, he got back and he's ready to go now after the trade happened. But no, I think it's going to take a week or two for Devontae Adams to kind of get going. But I do believe in the grand scheme of things, he's going to be Aaron Rodgers' number one target kind of coming in. I know Garrett Wilson has really ascended the last week or two with just the volume that he's been getting. But I do think that's going to, we have to tamper expectations a little bit with that, because I do think Devontae Adams is going to basically come in and be his number one guy. So that's kind of my thoughts right now on Devontae Adams specifically. Xavier Worthy, I really like the guy as well. Patrick Mahomes probably number 2 target behind Travis Kelce right now. And so, yeah, I mean, I think for a failed contender, you're getting into a younger asset. I definitely like this for both sides of the deal, because again, if I'm a contender, which I'm going to assume Shane is in this case, I want those points. And I'm okay with giving up a younger receiver like Xavier Worthy, who has shown some flashes and does have some promise, right? He definitely looks very promising. But again, right now, if I want to win, I need points, and that's when I want Devontae Adams, right? But again, I can see this deal from both sides. I think it's a very, very fair deal both ways.
Yeah. No, I get why one team would value one player over the other, and it feels like a pretty fair swap. You paid a first to get X Worthy. The opportunity says you probably would hope that you can get a first Worthy still right now.
Yeah.
And Adams is at a stage in his career that I don't know if you could get a first for him, but if he is bold, italicized, underlined Devontae Adams, then maybe. But so far this year, I mean, I'm just looking here. He's actually fully removed from the Las Vegas Raiders Trinity, which is really interesting. But let's hop over to Kansas City real quick. And I want to just look at the whole season. Again, we've had Rashee Rice go out. We've had it's the whole NFL. Don't need that. We've had multiple changes here. Rashee Rice was smashing. Travis Kelce's eating it up. And you'd expect, when Rashee Rice goes out, maybe X Worthy steps into the role. Well, I mean, the last 3, 4, 5, and 6, the last 4 games, I mean, he's only really scored a 3.8, right?
Yeah.
And he's that kind of player. He's almost like Alec Pierce, right? He only needs 3 or 4, and he can take any of them to the house. You're not really betting on him being this like Travis Kelce target earning the Rashee Rice kind of role. They both have wide receiver in their name, but they play 2 completely different positions.
Yeah.
And the same goes for Devontae Adams as well, right? Like, he is a different kind of receiver, and the way that Rodgers like to hyper target players, I do think Adams could be a more difference making option down the stretch. So I like me getting into some Adams, and if the cost is X Worthy, that feels pretty nice to me.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that at all. I actually didn't realize. I mean, again, I know that Xavier Worthy's had a couple of good games where he's caught a really deep ball, but I didn't realize the Trinity score was that low. But again, it's Mahomes and it's Xavier Worthy, so you're hoping that something can come of that. But I know what I'm going to be getting with Adams. Like I said, I think it's going to take a couple of weeks to kind of get going, but I think he'll get there. I definitely think he'll get there.
Yeah. Now Adams, he got hurt around week 3, right?
Yeah,
so, and
I think it was week 2 or 3.
And let's get tight ends out of here. You're gonna have to take this as a grain of salt because this isn't the Raiders offense. But when he was in the Raiders offense, Devontae Adams is right up there with how they're using Brock Bowers right now, right? He's getting elite usage. So we know that he can garner it. It just comes down to Will it happen? So I like it. I think this trade can go both ways. I think both teams walk away happy, and I like it. So good deal.
I agree.
Perfect. Glad to hear it. All right, here we go. Jay Casty, 14. We got a bit of a busy one here, Gabe.
Ooh, okay.
Let's see, can you see that? Let me zoom in a little bit. So we got a 12-team Superflex start 10, 1.75 tight end premium. Moved off depth pieces for liquid capital. Tight end rooms now McBride and Ferg. Well, you love it when McBride and Ferg are your tight end room. But Jay Casty here got into Ferguson, a 2027 first and a 2026 first. They gave up Kirk Cousins, Cooper Kupp, Evan Engram, Tank Bigsby, and my boy, Jaleel McLaughlin. Gabe, I'm looking at all the assets on the right side. I don't know if you can get a single first for any of them and really the context of the league. Like, let me start there. Are you sending a single first for any of those assets?
What was the premium again for tight ends?
1.75.
Probably not. Ingram's right on that cusp, like where he could be, but probably not. No, I don't think I'm sending probably a single first for any of these guys.
When Kupp was smashing, people did legitimately send a first for him. So It feels like Kupp, Engram, even Cousins. They're guys you probably want to get a first for, but you probably can't.
Correct.
Right? And then Jay Casty actually did realize 2 firsts, not in 2025, but one in 26 and one in 27. So, Gabe, Ferguson and Engram. I'm kind of cool to cross it off, but do you feel like one side deserves a plus?
I was actually going to ask you the same thing, funny enough. No, I think you can cross it off. I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
I think I'd want Ferguson just a little bit more than Engram, but again, cross it off, for the sake.
That's funny because like I kind of just want Engram more just because I like Engram and I don't know. But so that feels like a good little cross off there.
Yeah.
So we got this 26 first. So Kirk Cousins, let's start there. Kirk Cousins for a 26 first. It's closer than a 25 would be. So Kirk Cousins and Tank Bigsby for a 26 first. Does that get done?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Again, Tank Bigsby's been pretty good as of late, especially now with ETN. I don't know what's really going on with ETN. But yeah, he's going to be the number one running back on that team, and he's been very good with that role. So yeah, I'm definitely okay with that.
Yeah. And if I'm a competing team, I mean, I send a single first, I get a starting quarterback and a running back who's been producing. That's not bad at all.
Not at all.
Yeah. And then, hey, why stop there? Let's send my 27 first as well. Get into this Cooper Kupp, who could be hyper targeted again until Puka comes back and maybe beyond. And Jaleel, who, he's on the Denver Broncos. He's a running back. He'll catch some passes. So, yeah. When you kind of squish them all together, it feels like it's more. I think I'll still just take Ferguson in the 2 first. But hey, the side that's getting all those players, they're going to score points. I just hope that if they're getting all these players, that they're starting all those players and not just putting those players on their bench. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and I think it's a really savvy deal as well for Jay Casty, because realistically, by 2027, I don't know that any of these players outside of maybe Evan Engram, maybe Kirk Cousins, maybe are going to be probably playing still. I don't know if Tank Bigsby probably will be, but again, are you expecting him to be a running back one? Probably not. And then Jaleel McLaughlin, who knows? Cooper Kupp will probably not be playing in the league in probably 2 years. And so again, I think it's a really savvy deal where you get the picks later on down the road, and next thing you know, it's like this 27 first could be pretty early, just based on the assets that he's acquiring in this deal. So I do think it's a really savvy from that point of view.
Talk about de-risking yourself too, right? Like, save yourself some moves, get it all done in one. I like it, Jay Casty. I do. Perfect.
I see that one from both ways.
Yep.
But again, I want the pick side as well.
Yeah, I'll play a little bit of Dynasty there. Like, give me the picks over the smashing players. Okay. Speaking of Kirk Cousins, got another one. J Balls 2024, just 124. J Balls 24 is in an 8-team start 14 league, Gabe. So it's basically the equivalent of a 12-team start 10, but absolutely zero quarterback scarcity. You have to start 2 QBs, You have to start 2 running backs, you have to start 3 wide receivers, you have to start 2 tight ends, and then you have 4 flex and a super flex. Wait a minute. Is this a tri-flex or is it a hold on. 2, 4,
I think so.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's a 4. Okay. So maybe there is quarterbacks. If it's a tri-flex league, oh God. Okay. So you can start 3 quarterbacks. That's how we're playing this. All the fun extra points, first downs, point per carry, kickoff, big plays, 6-point passing touchdowns. They're doing this trade to try to win the ship. So J Balls gets into Kirk Cousins, Joe Mixon, A.J. Brown, and Deebo Samuel. And they just have to give up Malik freaking Neighbors and Drake May, who looked nice and not nice situation. And the Dynasty streets are all the way back in on Drake May. Gabe, do you play in any tri-flex leagues?
I don't play in any 8-team leagues, much less any tri-flex league, any 3 quarterback leagues. I can tell you that right now. So my brain is already kind of scratching itself right now, trying to figure this out. But one thing is, why didn't Malik Neighbors get any air horns? I mean, come on, man. That's a little. See, I'm telling you, that's a little bias there.
That's the bias. That's the bias. I know. I should have got at least a half more of a air horn. Apparently, no, but that's fair. That's fair. That was biased. But go ahead.
No, so I was going to say, so yeah, again, I don't play in any 8 teams, nor do I play in any 3 quarterback leagues. But even if we did the math, right? So 3 quarterbacks, you can start 8. That's 24. There's 32 starters. So there's still plenty of quarterbacks, I feel like, even in a start 3, right? Again, you're going to value them a little bit more, but I think with it only being 8 teams, there's plenty of quarterbacks still, I feel like, to go around. And so for me, I don't think you would be able to get Drake May with Kirk Cousins right now, 1-for-1, right? I don't think you'd be able to. So that being said, I think for me, knowing that it's a start 14 team, you're going to want depth, right? Because it's a lot of starters, right? I know it's only 8 teams, but again, it's still start 14, so it's still going to be some depth involved there. Would you send away your Drake May for Kirk Cousins and Joe Mixon?
Would I send away my Drake May for Kirk Cousins and Joe Mixon, and I'm competing?
Yep.
Yeah, I think I would, just based on what that does for my team. And I'll give the hopium of May up for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, right? So basically that 2-for-1, I'm okay with sending my Drake May. And the reason why I ask is because, again, right now we're in point scoring season, so I want the points on my team, and he's obviously pushing for a championship, which you mentioned there. So I'm perfectly fine with that deal. I think that could kind of cross off a little bit. Again, I think Kirk Cousins, Joe Mixon has a little bit of ADV value still on that side. And then AJ Brown and Deebo Samuel for Malik Neighbors. Again, I love Malik Neighbors. Love him. But AJ Brown could probably will outscore him maybe the rest of the season. Especially, I know he's dealing with a little bit of a concussion. I think he actually popped up again on the injury report for something else as well. And so, I mean, AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, come on. Easily AJ Brown and Deebo Samuel.
Yeah. Yeah, and even if you want to break Samuel up a bit, if Cousins and Mixon didn't get you there for May, then break up Deebo between the two, and I think you get there, right? And I mean, if you ask me on like January 3rd, 2025, maybe the May and Neighbor side sounds a lot more attractive, right? But with where we're at right now and what that does for my team, just give me Cousins, Mixon, Brown, and Samuel, and I'll figure it out. That's a little sicko mode there by J Balls in a pretty unique league navigating it like that. So, Gabe, I got to ask you. I got to ask you. It's Malik Neighbors over AJ Brown. Is it or is it not? I got to ask.
Are we talking ADV here, or are we talking actual production, or just what are we talking here? Because
I'm talking you are on the clock in your Dynasty League. All the other options that you were looking for, they're off the board and you're sitting there. You have Malik Neighbors and AJ Brown staring you in the face. Which one are you choosing? You can't trade out. You can't down tier. You can't. Just who are you taking?
I want the record to know I love AJ Brown and Malik Neighbors. 1-for-1, I would take Malik Neighbors.
Yeah. That's probably the right answer.
Yeah. I would take Malik Neighbors over AJ Brown. But hey, you're giving me Debo Samuel on top of that.
Yeah.
You can have my Malik Neighbors very happy. I will pack his bags and send him on his way.
Yeah. Especially when all the bonuses here, Debo mixing, they're bound to pop a few, right? So I'm absolutely fine with that one. Okay. Looks like we're getting to Stebo here. Where are we at? 45? Yeah, we got some time. All right, Stebo
over here.
We didn't get any. 12 by 9. Here we go. I'm assuming, yeah, this is this one. So 12 by 9, super flex, PPR, no tight end premium. They're in first place and they have no assets due to the previous manager. So they took over an orphan. They're still running lean. They're winning, but they don't have a lot. So they sent away Nico Collins and Devon Achane. They got back David Montgomery, T. Higgins, a 2025 first, and a 2026 first. And if I remember correctly, if I remember what Steve-O told me in the DMs, one of those firsts I think is bound to be pretty early. I think the 26 first is bound to be early. So you're the Houston fan. We all love Nico. We like the theory of Achane and what he can provide and how he started the year. Monty's smashing. Higgins is low-key smashing. And you get 2 firsts. Gabe, 12 by 9, hammer hunting season. Where are you going in this deal?
So I actually kind of helped facilitate this deal, funny enough. With Steve over here, I kind of helped him out, kind of navigate this one a little bit. But automatically for me, again, having no assets, he's in first place. He wants points added to his roster. I agree 100% you want the hammers. Nico Collins is a hammer. So is David Montgomery. I mean, regardless of how you feel about his ADV with Jahmyr Gibbs and whatnot, the man is doing the thing. And T. Higgins, to your point, has been very good. He's actually been sneakily very, very good. I know that there's been some stink on T. Higgins in the past. And so for me, I had kind of told Steve-O that I was perfectly fine with, tearing off of Nico Collins to get some production right now, just to make sure that I keep, the tire spinning, if you will. And so, again, not having any assets, to your point, you're going to want liquidity later on down the line. And so you're getting 2 picks in here. So I think the way that I kind of broke this down was, a first and David Montgomery is probably a little too much for Achane, right? Yeah. I would want the first and David Montgomery. That being said, though, so there's a little bit left over. I think a first and Higgins is a little too short, right? So I think that delta there for Nico Collins, I think that delta there kind of evens it out. So I think maybe ADV wise, you could see this deal both ways, but just from a pure production standpoint, 2 of these guys are not playing right now. 2 of these guys are playing very well right now, and you're giving me liquidity on top of it. That's the side of the deal that I wanted from the get-go on this one, right? Again, Steve-O's in first place. He keeps the wheels turning on this team. He's not losing really any production from Devon Achane and David Montgomery. And then you go to T. Higgins, who's been playing very well. Again, he's not playing at the caliber that Nico Collins was, but you get 2 firsts to kind of play with, and you can figure that out later on.
Yeah. I'm not going to go over, retreaded ground. If you want to hear more about T. Higgins, like why he's a good opportunistic buy at this point, head on over to the channel, watch Dynasty Theories episode that dropped this week. Some good nuggets on that show. I will say, like, when you dig into the Trinity a little bit more too, as we look at the recent weeks, Chase is definitely starting to trend as the guy. But Higgins is there, and when opportunity eventually does knock, people are still going to like him. So I don't mind getting to Higgins. Getting 2 firsts on a team that's starved for future assets and liquidity, that's huge, especially if one of those picks ends up being early. Yep. Monty to Achane. ADV tells me I want Achane, but it's a running back. End of the day, like, what's the difference if Monty's smashing? It's the Nico of it all, right? But I think the totality of the package, you're getting arguably the better win now running back right now.
Yep.
You're getting the wide receiver who you can plug in your lineup and feel decent about. You're not going to feel Nico, but you give me 2 firsts. Yeah, like I'm cool with that. So if you want to send some of that first over in the Achane trade, sure. But then you give me all that liquidity and Higgins for Nico, we can make that happen.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And that's why I had mentioned, I know for sure most people, if you ask them 1 for 1, Achane or Monty, it's going to be Achane, right? Just from a pure ADV standpoint. Now, again, maybe you and I see it a little differently, just because one is actually playing very well right now, whereas the other one isn't. which is why I kind of threw one of the 26 first specifically in there because it's a little bit further out, right? But I mean, in a real world, there's no way anybody's adding David Montgomery in a first for Achane. Like, I know that's not happening, which is why there's going to be some left over, and you just throw it onto the other side. And again, that's kind of how I had broken down the trade initially, and you're giving me the flexibility on one side. Now, what can Steve-O go do with those two first? Man, he can probably go buy another great wide receiver or another, two great running backs. He could go buy Derrick Henry and someone else. And now the points that you've added to your roster are just astronomical.
Mm-hmm. In general, if you give up the best asset in the deal and then you get assets 2, 3, and 4, it usually works out for the better for you. So I like what Steve-O did. I'm sure it didn't feel great giving up Nico, but I think you like the end result and the outs you gave a team that seemed to need a couple outs. So good work. All right, we got 2 more. Let's hop to this one because I want us to break our brains before we get out of here. So Old Hen got a 12-team start 11 Superflex PPR. It's a 0.1 point per carry and a 2.0 tight end premium. Tarnished one gave up they got Patrick Mahomes, Chris Olave in a 25 second, and Hen got himself into Anthony Richardson, Brian Thomas Jr., and Tarnished one's 2025 first. Gabe, I don't know if you listened to Pole Position last week. We talked some Brian Thomas Jr. deals, seeing how we can get off of Brian Thomas Jr. given he was wide receiver 7 on Keep Trade Cut. Yeah. Right, we looked at some like what's the buy price, how can we get out? We looked at maneuvering, and one of the ones I brought up was Chris Olave in a first or Brian Thomas in a second, and it was pretty much unanimous Chris Olave in a first. Since then, Chris Olave has been concussed, still hasn't really produced. Rashid Shaheed's out now too. I think the results that would probably be a little bit different. But I mean, Chris Olave in a second for Brian Thomas. Let's start there. Chris Olave in a second or Brian Thomas?
I think right now, knowing what I know now with Shaheed being out, the ball's got to go somewhere. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Again, BTJ has been very good. I know this last week wasn't his best week, but just in the grand scheme of things, he's been very, very good. Chris Olave hasn't been what you wanted him to be. He was concussed, and now, he was kind of injured. And so there's a lot kind of up in the air right now. Derek Carr's now out, so you got Spencer Rattler throwing him the ball. I think I talked about it a little bit last week, but Spencer Rattler made a comment of like, when Chris Olave is on the field, I need to get that man the ball, right? And so we haven't seen it yet because Chris Olave hasn't played. But I do believe Chris Olave could return to the form that we were looking for. So I think Chris Olave in a second for Brian Thomas Jr., you punch it into a trade calculator, it might be probably pretty fair, but I would personally want Chris Olave in a second.
Sure. Okay. So there's a little bit left over on the Chris Olave in a second side.
Not much, but yes. Yeah.
I got you. And then we got Mahomes for Anthony Richardson and a first. So Mahomes has been poo-pooed a little bit in the Dynasty streets. He's not the fantasy football savant. He's a good NFL quarterback. He's one of the best NFL quarterbacks we've ever seen. That doesn't always translate to fantasy points. Anthony Richardson, in theory, should be a fantasy football god, but he's been hurt. It's, it is what it is. I mean, week 1, he was quarterback 6 or something like that on the week. So he's had those spikes, but AR and a first for Mahomes and a 12-by-10, Gabe. I mean, I don't know if you're getting any more than that. And I mean, it's a pretty damn good deal. What side of that are you on in general?
Yeah, I would want Anthony Richardson in a first. Unfortunately, I know that, again, I'm not the biggest believer in Anthony Richardson. Sorry, Ty, if you are, but I have not been the biggest believer of Anthony Richardson. I love Patrick Mahomes, but just kind of what we've seen in the landscape, I mean, there is definitely a possibility that Anthony Richardson, when he's healthy, he's going to outscore Mahomes, and so then you give me a first on top of it. What can I do with that? I want Anthony Richardson in the first pretty easily, I think, on that side.
Yeah. I was an early adopter to Anthony Richardson. I remember watching the DD draft stream, and as soon as Richardson got selected, I sent Fields away for Richardson and a second, and I felt that was one of the sweetest deals I've had to pull off. But it's not great for Anthony Richardson in 2024, and we hope it can get better, but it just doesn't feel great when you want another quarterback in the offense to support passing offense, the passing options. But I'm taking BTJ Richardson in first here. Just again, I like what the other side has, but I like the Thomas, the Richardson in the first. I can probably do more with that, and still I keep the exact same roster construction, but I get a first. So I like that.
No, I'm right there with you. Like I said, I think Chris Olave in a second for BTJ. It's probably pretty fair on the surface. I think from pure production standpoint, I want Chris Olave in the second just because I think I can probably buy another, competent running back, if you will, with that second, or, just be able to maneuver that a little bit better. So again, it's pretty fair, but then Anthony Richardson in the first, that pushes me over the edge on the BTJ side. So yeah, I agree with you. I want BTJ, AR, and the 25 first as well.
And if you were on the edge, that first is currently the 103 based on like potential points. The team is 7, so they could make playoffs, but it could go that way. I play with Tarnish one. I don't doubt he can get that team to the playoffs. So that's a bet, but I like that kind of a bet in a deal like this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now you're telling me that it could be a mid to earlier first. Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now. I was working under the assumption it was a later first, and you were holding out on me a little bit there.
Oh, come on now. Well, if you want me to hold out on you, I'm not doing it here because Stiley wrote us a novel, and this is going to close us out. So Dynasty Superflex, 12 teams, start 10, PPR, 0.5 tight end premium, 0.25 running back reception, 6-point passing touchdown. They were rebuilding, started the season 3-0 with a few decent players, decided to pivot and make a push. Trade economy is pretty good. They were lacking QB. So we'll read back into this. I'm sure I'm missing something and skipping over something important there, Stiley, but let's just get to the deal. So again, a 12-team start 10. We got a 0.5 PPR and there's a 0.5 tight end premium full PPR. So Stiley's getting into Brocktavius Bowers, Tua Tagovailoa, J.K. Dobbins, Darnell Mooney, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and James Cook. And they gave up Michael Penix, Drake May, Devon Achane, Jalen Polk, Dontavian Wicks, a 25 first, a 25 first, a 25 first, so 3 2025 first, a 25 second, a 25 third, a 25 second, and a 2025 third. So Gabe, one more time. Okay. Drake May, Michael Penix, Devon Achane, 3 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, Polk and Wicks for Bowers, Tua, Mooney, Dobbins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and James Cook. My friend, I'm going to need some help crossing off some things here. I am going to need some help.
These guys love making us work, don't they?
Jeez.
Man. Could we have broken this trade down a little bit, Stiley? Like, couldn't you have done like maybe Bowers in a piece and then, Tua in a piece and kind of sent that out? No, you just wanted to send over I don't even know, what is that, a 12 for 6?
Yeah. And here we go. So here's some context. The 2 team picks project to be late, with one first possibly being mid. So mid to late first, let's call them.
Okay. Ooh, all right. So immediately, I want to get rid of those first, just for the sake of my brain and just making this process easy, right? And so initially, I'm going to go to Amon-Ra St. Brown because I do think he is probably the most valuable piece in this entire trade. Even Bowers, he's phenomenal, but in a 0.5 tight end premium, he's one of those guys that matters, but I don't think he's over Amon-Ra St. Brown as far as value goes, right? And so, Ty, 2 firsts for Amon-Ra St. Brown. I would imagine you're probably going to want Amon-Ra St. Brown, right?
Yes.
Okay. That being said, though, you're not paying 3 firsts for Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I was going to say, the fact that we're even asking that question tells me everything I need to know, that we're playing in a different Dynasty game than we were even a couple months ago, right? You're just not going to get 3 liquid firsts for a single player. And if you can, like we saw before, Marvin Harrison Jr. for 3 firsts from Danny Too Good back in a couple shows ago, that I just don't expect to be able to get that anymore.
No. Yeah, I agree. And that's why I mentioned, I don't think you're going to get that, right? I don't think you're going to get that. But I wanted to kind of put a spin on this a little bit. So Amon-Ra and J.K. Dobbins, who's been pretty good as of late. Would you want that or 3 firsts?
I think if you give me the plus that makes sense for my team. That's how it can probably get done. J.K. Dobbins probably shouldn't sway the deal, but I think that's fair, right? Amon-Ra and Dobbins for 3 firsts, sure.
Okay, that's kind of where initially. Again, this is my first time ever seeing this trade, but that's kind of how my brain goes, right? So 3 firsts for Amon-Ra and J.K. Dobbins. We get all of those firsts out of the way, right? Then you have a couple thirds and 2 seconds, right? And so now we kind of go from there. Brock Bowers. I don't even know, this guy right now is almost unattainable. Like, the way that he's playing, and now Devontae Adams leaves. And, I mean, literally, who are they going to throw the ball to? This man might literally have 15 targets a game.
I think Jacoby Myers is still hurt, too, so, yeah.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers is still hurt. Devontae's not there anymore. I mean, I don't know who else they have, right? And so... but before I get to Bowers, I was going to say, so 3 firsts are gone. Jalen Polk in a second. Do you want Jalen Polk in a second or Darnell Mooney?
The fact that I'm thinking about it tells me it's probably close. I want Mooney just because what he's done and what that does for my team, but I get Polk in a second. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then that would basically leave us with, and I don't think you'd do this, but Dontavian Wicks in a second for James Cook.
It's funny because I'm just so biased against James Cook, and I don't know why. I'll stick with James Cook there because Dontavian Wicks is much so less in my mind. So yeah, give me Cook, but I'm gonna begrudgingly do that.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this then: Achane or James Cook? Is that better?
Oh, Achane.
Achane, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just say, for the sake of this, right, we'll cross off that Dontavian Wicks and the second, and there's a little bit left over for James Cook, right? Because I think in those 2 for James Cook, I think I'd rather have James Cook just a little bit. But So then that leaves us with Michael Penix, Drake May, Devon Achane for Tua and Brock Bowers. And a third, technically speaking, if you really want, the 2 thirds. So
May, Penix, Achane for Bowers and Tua?
Yeah, for Bowers and Tua.
So, I mean, Drake May and Tua. I know you said you would take Tua over Goff last show if he was healthy. Drake May's got some sex appeal to him. He's a rookie. He played well. Are you taking Tua over Drake May today?
Am I taking Tua over Drake May today? Probably not. I think I would want Drake May over Tua.
I think I'm right there with you.
Okay.
So let's say a little bit on the Drake May side. So Michael Penix, Achane, that third, let's call it 2/3 worth of value, just what's base left over on the May side.
Yeah.
So Penix, essentially a first, and when he gets the start, just have to get there first. Achane, you'd love to get a first. That's like 2 firsts and a couple thirds for Bowers.
Probably appropriate. I mean,
yeah. And
probably appropriate.
Even in a small tight end premium, Bowers is still a positional difference maker who even you can flex. So when I look at the deal in totality, I'm like, I don't know how I don't walk away with May in the 3 firsts, but that Amon-Ra I think just really changes the math. And based on that math, I'm taking Tua, Bowers, Dobbins, Mooney, Cook, and Amon-Ra.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, I think whenever we look at that and just kind of break it down, I think that was, probably a pretty good way of breaking the trade down. Yeah. I think that I could see this from both angles where I want those picks, right? And I want that Drake May next year, you know what I mean? Or even later this year, right? You just never know what he could become. And so definitely a guy that I'm super interested in. But the guys on the other side, man, it's not like you're giving up aging vets or anything like that. Like, all of these guys are still in their prime. They're still like rocking and rolling, And so I think from a pure production standpoint, because that's where we're at right now, we want points. I want Stiley's side, right? Again, because just the sheer players that you're getting, Amon-Ra, Bowers, Darnell Mooney, who's been really good, J.K. Dobbins, who again has been very good, and right now Tua's at a discount because he's not playing. You know what I mean? But as soon as he starts playing and putting up 20, 30-point games again like he did beforehand, then we could easily have a conversation where it's Tua over Drake May. And so again, I think right now in this landscape that we're in, yes, we want Drake May over Tua, but there is a real world where I don't know when Tua's coming back, but in a couple of weeks when he is back, you want Tua over Drake May, right? And again, we've only seen 1 week from Drake May, so he comes out here and stinks it up the next week or two. is definitely a very different conversation. So just from that aspect of it, I want Stiley side just from the pure production aspect of it. But I understand what D Bruns is trying to do just by acquiring that liquidity and getting younger, right? So, again, pretty savvy deal, I think, from both parties. But yeah, I want Stiley side, man.
Yeah, I mean, if you're D Bruns 21 or D Bruins, D Bruns, whoever you are, you get 7 picks. You get Drake May, Michael Penix, Devon Achane. Like, I don't know how you leave that deal feeling poor about yourself.
Correct.
And on Stiley's side, you get into Bowers, Amon-Ra, you get a Tua back, you get Mooney, you're trusting the Trinity, you got James Cook, who enjoy James Cook, I guess. I don't know. I'm just so unexcited by James Cook, but that's me. That's me. That's a me problem. And then J.K. Dobbins, who, new life. So this is a really fun deal, a really busy deal. Again, I can't believe I'm not saying the side that gets all the picks and has the sexy players, but give me Bowers and Raw, and I'll fill in. This is a lineup league, 12 by 10 lineup.
Yeah, even more so than, at that point, you're not wanting to have to start James Polk and Dontavian Wicks week over week, and so you want the hammers. And again, you're getting a positional difference maker with Brock Bowers and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, I mean, that definitely changes it up for me a little bit, but I still want that side for sure.
Definitely, man. We got some good deals this week. A lot of AJ Brown, a lot of picks flying around. Gabe,
Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins,
big Sam Darnold guy over here. Gabe, where can the people find you on X? What you got? Anything else cooking, or what are you doing this weekend? Like what do you got going on?
Yeah, so actually this weekend, YP and I are going to be heading out to Fredericksburg. And so basically it's a really popular destination here in Texas where you can go out and get some, we go and visit the wineries and the vineyards, if you will. So we're going to be watching a little bit of football, maybe a little tipsy, who knows, but we're going to be drinking up on some wine and enjoying ourselves out there. But yeah, you guys can find me on X at @IGabe_FF. And then, of course, you can catch me in the Discord as well. I know we've had a couple of Patreons reach out about trades. And so, again, I'm happy to answer and happy to help whenever I can. But, yeah, those are definitely the 2 places where you guys can find me.
Yes. I'm just going to set an alarm on my phone to send you a trade Saturday night when you are drinking. There we go.
Well played.
Yeah. Hey, if you want to know what we're doing on a personal or dynasty level at any point, get on into the Discord, patreon.com/allgas, ddfantasyfootball.com. If you want a nice little discount, get you in the door, 50% off first time sign up. Like, let's go. Easiest way, head on over to my Twitter handle, TyDeclare44. Look at the pinned tweet. Use code TRADES or use code TRADEGOAT to get into the GOAT tier. Get some money back. Get in here. Join DD Fantasy Football, the best place you can be. Get all the bonus content. Get direct access to all content creators with the GOAT tier. All in all, just join the best place to be. You might become best friends with Gabe. Who knows? But if you're not going to do that, at least head on over to Underdog. Use code ALLGAS. Get that first-time deposit bonus up to $1,000. Get yourself that bonus pick and have some fun. Gabe, we're sending offers all the time. Right now, I've gotten some Swift this week. I've sold some Hurts. We've made some progress, but we're in unprecedented times here in Dynasty. So I encourage you to be creative. Look at things a little differently, like readjust. We're not in July anymore. So go out there, have some fun, be creative, take some risks, make some bets. Hit like, hit subscribe if you found this show actionable, entertaining, somewhere in between. Stay tapped in. We'll see you on the next one. We out of this thing. Peace.